Okay, moving on to question number 2. This is basically asking about the research process. So, for example, number 1, I basically say that I research authors or research sources. In the past, before or even in high school, I would believe everything I read on the internet. Whatever I found on Google, whatever, even, well, not Facebook. I know Facebook isn't factual, but like whatever I read on the internet, like news or whatever, I would believe it. I really found Google to be trustworthy because it's known to be the most trustworthy search engine. It's very popular. And since it's very popular, I was like, oh, so it has to be trustworthy, right? I was very wrong for this. And it was just like basic Google, not even Google Scholar. I didn't even know about Google Scholar back then in high school. So now I learned that websites with ads were not trustworthy at all because they're just trying to sell you something, right? You even showed us that whenever you Google something, like let's say English 1301 or whatever, whenever you Google something, the first thing, or like not 1301, I don't know what to Google. Whenever you Google like how to make a whatever, how to make a face mask, let's do. Whatever comes out first, they basically pay more to have their things pop up first or whatever. I remember you showed us that in class. So yeah, okay, so this is an example for that. Sorry. um I I learned this in 1301 with you, but you continue to further explain it further, teach us about UTRGV's library. So UTRGV library, I use that a lot. I used it for all my research. I didn't even use Google Scholar or anything. So I learned to use UTRGV's library for my research because the information they have there, all the things that you find there, and everything has been read and approved by peers and staff, or peers or staff. Um, I also learned to do background checks on all the authors of the things on websites I found. Um, and these background checks were not like criminal stuff like that. People might think about that, but no. It was just to see if they were trustworthy, if they were credible enough to be talking about the topic. Like if they had the credibility to speak on the topic. So I basically had to look up all my authors and organizations to see if what they were saying was relevant and actually good. So this was an assignment you gave us for our class. So basically we had to make crap sheets. This is my crap sheet for one author. This was very helpful. Yeah, it was very helpful because you learn a lot about the person writing it, and you actually see if it's factual or not. So yeah, okay, so for my others, I found 3 websites that were really good. This one has 3 ladies that basically talked about it, and this is the one that I ended up choosing for my gap, which is going to be another question. But yeah, like the crap sheets were very, very helpful for me, at least. I even provided like the actual PDF. Anyways, this is the last crap sheet I found. Crap sheet I did, sorry, not found. Well, crap sheet I did on the website that I found. Yeah, okay. Another one. So, yeah, like it was I was able to get things ready for the assignment that was to follow. Yeah, it was like this also worked at my AC's on. I'm sorry. Okay, this also worked as a type of draft for that connects with my first question, my second example. Anyways, this was also a kind of draft, but yeah, looking up authors and seeing if they were actually factual was very helpful. So in the future, it taught me to believe it. This information was helpful because it taught me to not believe everything I read. It'll teach me that not everyone in my so from like my future career, my future job, it taught me that not everybody in my department will have the knowledge required for a case or know every detail about a case. Again, CSI, a criminal justice career, not everybody is gonna know what the case I'm working on or cases or investigations that are going on. So I cannot let myself be given every detail because not everybody's gonna be giving factual information. So yeah, it's gonna be very helpful as a CSI agent since I wanted to look up details and information myself and see that not every individual in the same department will have the details I will need. So yeah, okay, so moving on to my second example for question number 2. Sources aren't meant to be supporting evidence. This one was super hard to do because I remember using all my sources as my evidence to my topic. I used them as a way to get my point across. All of my essays in high school, my sources, my documents, whatever, they were my way of showing proof of getting my point across. I was taught to use all my sources to my best advantage. Basically, like, I could take any quote and interpret it, and basically I could take any quote and use it to my best advantage, interpret it basically to what it made, to the point where it made my point or my topic sound, credible, whatever, like it connected with my topic, right? Basically. So I learned that sources are not meant to be my supporting evidence. If anything, you can agree or disagree with what the sources are saying. And use them as a way to explain my topic. This was very hard because as far back as I can remember, I was taught to use my sources, get quotes that benefited me and stuff like that, and just use them. So getting to in this class, being told that I cannot use them as my supporting evidence, if anything, just say I agree with this source because of this, or I don't agree because of this. So it was very shocking. Not shocking. It was very I had to find a way to use the sources or how to put them in my whole topic, my research, whatever. So yeah. And since I mentioned that I can agree or disagree, I actually had a source that only directed its specific audience to its specific audience was very how do I say it? Very commercial wise. It was a very business type audience that it was speaking to. So it didn't go with my topic completely, but I used it right. There were some things it talked about that I really didn't really agree with either. So I actually say that, I say that in my podcast. I said on my second podcast, and I even go ahead and I even say it, put it, draw it, whatever. I drew it into my conversation map on assignment 3. So let me show you that. So this is crap sheets. What is this other one? Okay, this is my podcast, but do you want to play it? Okay, so I'll just put it over here. Let me just play it. So it was from 126. So let's begin. The first article I want to talk about is by Charlie Richards, titled Autoethnography: How Respondent Researchers Helped Bring Ethnography in from the Cold. I found this article very interesting since he mentions Philip Bourgois, an ethnographic criminologist who explored the dynamics of a gang of crack cocaine dealers. He includes in his article how autoethnography impacts commercial research. He also includes Through Navajo Eyes, a project of 1966 that gave Native Americans cameras as a way for the public to see their life and all the things that mattered to them. This is very interesting because it just gives a different perspective for people to see of Native Americans, since there wasn't that much information on them and what mattered to them in 1966. So that was interesting for him to include. This article was a bit interesting because it provided different life experiences and how they impacted differently. And for this, I viewed this article as a point of view for my research. I added it as a point of view because Charlie Richards himself wrote this article for commercial research. Sorry, I have trouble saying commercial. So since he added it as commercial research, it adds a different perspective or point of view, if you will, to my research. Although the purpose of this article is a bit different compared to my topic, it adds a little bit more context or even a different context to my research, since it just gives you a different thing to even think about. So overall, I found the source a little confusing. Just because it's not 100% like my topic, but it adds to it. So yeah, okay, so basically this is my script to the podcast, but I talk about the source and what it's talking about. I give a little description about it, and then I finish it off by saying how I didn't agree with it and why. I even showed this in my conversation map. I can close that. So conversation map is assignment 3. I say right here. I'm basically speaking to him. He's right here. I say, Charlie, I can't really relate to your article since you directed it to a more commercial audience, but I really like your examples and how you interpreted them. I don't agree with what he said, but there were some things that he gave some good points, basically. So in the future, this will be very important in my career because gathering information from witnesses for a case would just be like this, basically. I talk about it in my podcast. Not everything a witness says will be factual or help with the case. In this scenario, what he was saying didn't really fit in with what I was talking about, what I was trying to get across. So I just need to learn to gather information and then see how everything correlates and what makes the most sense. So basically, I'll get a lot of witnesses and stuff, victims and whatever, mainly witnesses on a certain accident or certain case, and just get all the information and then depict what is actually true, based on details and other information that I would gather. So so that was question 2, example 2. So question 3, I had a lot of trouble with this question. So it's basically talking about secondary sources, and so my first example is gaps, but I will have to finish it off here because I am seconds away from 15 minutes. So I'll continue talking about this in the other part.